Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Adult AML Chapter event brought to you by the HealthTree Community for AML and the Bone Marrow Transplant Link. My name is Mary Arnett, and I am the HealthTree for AML Community and Education Manager. I am really excited today to be bringing our communities together to talk about this important topic. So welcome to both our HealthTree for AML and the nbmtLINK communities. We are glad you're all here. I would like to let you know that today's session will be recorded, and the recording, along with the slides and any resources we discussed today, will be sent via email to all registrants within 48 hours of the event concluding. We'll start today with a brief Zoom meeting tutorial for anyone new to the platform. We would love for you to turn your camera on and keep your cameras on if you feel comfortable. We believe doing so helps us to create a stronger sense of community. You can see on the slide here how to turn that camera on. At the bottom of your screen, you should see a microphone and camera button. You can click the video icon that says to start video in order to turn your camera on. With that being said, if you're not comfortable being recorded, you are not required to keep your camera on. Your microphones should currently be off and will be kept off by our team throughout the presentation. During the group discussion at the end, you'll be welcome to unmute yourself once you are called on. If you have any questions or comments for us or for our speakers throughout the presentation, please click on that chat icon and type them in the box. If you're using a mobile device or a tablet, click the three-dot icon that says More and then Chat in order to access the chat box. And lastly, if you would prefer to verbally ask a question or make a comment directly to our speakers during the discussion time at the end, we encourage you to do so. If you're using a laptop or a desktop computer, click Reactions near the bottom of your screen and then click to raise your hand. If you're using a mobile device or a tablet, you can click the three horizontal dots that say More and then click on the Raise Your Hand button. Now we're going to get started with today's event, and I'd first like to thank our HealthTree sponsors who make events like this possible. Those are Servier, Estella's, and AbbVie. The topic of our event today is navigating grief and end-of-life planning for AML patients and caregivers. We do want to say first, we understand that this topic is sensitive and can be hard, but we believe it's incredibly important to talk about and to share resources on, but we do realize that it can be tough to hear. We're happy that all of you are here today, but I also want to remind everyone that this event is recorded and will be available on our website, so it can be rewatched or accessed there anytime. So if for any reason you need to log off or step away, the information will be there and available whenever you're ready. So here is our agenda for today. First, I'm going to introduce our incredible panel of speakers, Jennifer, Katie, and Steve. They will each take time presenting for us. After we've heard from all of our panelists, we'll open it up for questions and comments. So let me take a second to introduce our first panelist, Jennifer. Jennifer is the staff social worker at the National Bone Marrow Transplant Link and provides counseling at a private practice in Troy, Michigan. She's experienced in oncology, bone marrow transplantation, and assisting people in coping with illness. She received her Master of Social Work degree from Wayne State University. She's spent 20 years leading the psychosocial support systems for oncology over Providence Hospital and Providence Navi Hospital. She provided private counseling, led support groups, assisted with educating patients, developed patient programming, assisted with current research projects, and led the Fellows Clinic, a place for people to receive cancer treatment who had no insurance and were in socioeconomic crisis. At nbmtLINK, Jennifer is available to assist with emotional support, resources, and assist with supportive programming. Our second panelist today is Katie. She has been employed by Realty Title and Escrow, a title company, for 14 years, as a receptionist, pre-closer for investment buyer, and currently as a regional assistant for 10 branches. She provides the human touch to customer care needs in the office, face-to-face with clients, and by phone to resolve uncertainties and direction when a problem arises. This is what Katie does in her daytime work. She currently finds reward by working in the beginning stages of a widows group in her church. She interfaces with staff and widows to prepare meetings and determine needs. She has helped with 2 successful meetings to date. And then her real work, a wife of 26 years and caregiver offering hope to Mark for almost 10 extraordinary years. They partnered in an amazing journey through 2 rare cancers. They fought the good fight and stayed the course. And our last panelist today is Steve. Steve is an AML patient who has had 7+3, flag, multiple consolidations, and additional aza-ven cycles pursuant to achieving complete remission for a bone marrow transplant in late February of 2023. Steve grew up working on cattle and horse farms. He's an amateur pianist who plays regularly for hospital, hospice, and others. He's a retired IT professional and an active volunteer with several health and hospital patient family councils. He's an active board member for youth and adult musical organizations. Steve likes books, hiking, walking, and podcasts. He's a trained end-of-life advocate who holds an MSW. He is a dad and a very happy grandfather. I am so grateful for all of our panelists today, and I am so excited to see how all of their unique experiences and knowledge come together in this event. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn the time over to Jennifer.
Thank you so much, Mary. I appreciate you having us all here today, and it's an absolute honor to be presenting with this amazing group of panelists. And I also want to echo what Mary said. I know this is a really tough topic, but I also know it's an important topic. So if anything is, just too hard today, give yourself a minute to take a break or come back to the recording. It is here for you, and the slides will also be sent to you. I bring these slides to you today as someone who's been in oncology for over 25 years, but I also bring this to you as a caregiver. I have 3 people that I've been a caregiver to in my family, and my mom is actually currently on hospice. And so all of these things are very near and dear to my heart. And I just want to share some of the things I've learned with you over the years to help you at this difficult stage. And so I named the topic today, Changing the Sails on a Cancer Journey, because you can't change the direction of the wind, but you can adjust your sails to reach your destination. It's just the destination is going to be changing from cure to getting through and having a most peaceful death that you can have. So first of all, to everyone, it's okay to grieve as you enter this step of the journey. Basically, I'm just going to tell you right off the bat, every emotion is 100% normal. Sometimes you might even feel like you're losing your mind when you get to this point, because there's anticipatory grief that I'm sure all of you are very familiar with if you're walking this journey. But there's also all these feelings can be felt at once. We can feel anger and relief at the same time. We can feel regret and acceptance at the same time. So just know anything you're feeling is normal. Your healthcare team can help you cope. A lot of times they have connections of people they can refer to you for counseling, or a lot of people are prescribed medication. They can also lead you to different support groups. Some people in this time also might prefer to do things more individually, maybe blogging, writing letters to people they love, or just finding more individual ways. The fact is, there's no right or wrong way to do this. We're all individuals and we all grieve our own way. So treatment and care at the end stages of AML. When treatment stops or when people choose to discontinue treatment, we call this end of life care. And just as unique as grief is, we also have a unique way that we might handle this time in one person's life. But the main goals are to focus on comfort and managing pain. Now, support involves asking individuals and those that are being cared for, as well as caregiving families, asking everybody what kinds of things are important. The individual is, certainly the most important, but we also have to be realistic on what everyone feels comfortable with and hear the voices of everyone. So end of life care can be palliative care. Palliative care is kind of like a specialty. Like if I have asthma, I might go to my internist, but if I have asthma that's really a pain in the tush, I might go to an asthma specialist. And it's kind of the same thing. Palliative care, your doctor might be providing parts of it, but you are also welcome to explore it as a specialty. There's also home care to support you during this time. There's also respite care, where sometimes people get breaks, supportive care, and then again, hospice care. Where you choose to be with your supports is going to be based on you as an individual, as well as, where you are in your treatment journey. Some people might have advanced cancer but not be bedbound. Some people might be in a situation like hospice. Typically the guideline is like expected to have 6 months or less, but I know people that have re-signed on and on again. um, as well as hospice, the treatment goes to strictly comfort. So like if you're someone requires transfusions, that's not something that's typically covered by hospice care. So those are going to be very individual conversations, and you don't have to figure all that out yourself. Your team, your healthcare team is going to guide you through those things, but know that you have several options. Support's going to look like things that include physical comfort, emotional, mental, spiritual, social, practical, and even legal, because there are legal things at this point in time that you'll want to make sure are taken care of. So as far as physical care, comfort and pain management is the main goals during this stage. It's also to make sure, like if someone is bedbound, do they need a hospital bed? Do they need um, different cushions or, chairs that are more comfortable? Those are things that we'll want to look at. We'll look at, if someone is bedbound, making sure they have turning schedules to prevent bed sores. We're also going to look at smaller, more frequent meals typically. If you're still able to voice well what you can handle, that's great. But if someone is getting to the point where they don't feel like they can handle a lot of meals, understand that that actually can cause discomfort if we try to push meals too much. Elevating the person's position slightly to help with breathing. Sometimes when they're laid flat, that can make it more labored. Using blankets to keep them warm. I know my mom right now, we kind of wrap her like a little burrito and she loves it. Keeping their mouth moist, offering sips of liquid through a straw or a spoon if they can swallow. And sometimes it might be ice chips if appropriate. But also if they've reached a point where they can't swallow, using a swab with water or a sponge to keep things moist. You can even put a damp cloth over someone's eyes to help with dryness in the eyes, as well as gently holding or rubbing their hand and feet, offering massages if you think that would be comforting or they would like that. Also physically, like if you're holding hands, if this is someone who typically has enjoyed touch, even having your hand on the bottom and theirs on the top. So at any point, if they don't want to be holding hands, it's easier to move their hand. Applying lip balm or glycerin swabs on dry lips and mouth, and gently applying alcohol-free or lotion to help with dry skin, because that can hurt too. Emotional needs during this time, for family and relatives who want to offer support. Basically anyone who can be there peacefully is, usually welcome. But again, think about the person who is dying. And if this person did like more time alone, try to make sure you're scheduling more breaks and asking them if they have a voice, to be able to share how many people they want in the room. And you can reduce feelings of uncertainty and anxiety and loneliness by, again, holding hands, even just sitting beside them. Presence is everything at this stage. Talking to them, listening to their stories, playing music they like, again, counseling or medication. And then, of course, meeting a person's spiritual needs. Many find courage and peace through their faith, and maybe reading texts from loved ones or playing spiritual music. Or discussing what rituals or ceremonies are important to them and when their life is celebrated. Remember happy memories together and share how the person has impacted your life. and may also fulfill their spiritual needs by letting them know their life had great meaning. As far as hope, we all need hope. You can feel a sense of hope despite your cancer, but what you hope for changes. You can hope for things such as comfort, peace, or acceptance, and it can give you a sense of purpose. To build a sense of hope, set your goals to look for something to look forward to each day. If someone's not bedbound, still plan something to look forward to. Maybe a little visit, or attending like a grandchild's play or something, if that can still be done. Or even watching a video of it if you can't be there in person. Try to plan for the future, look for reasons to hope while also staying aware of what's at hand, and be mindful of making moments. Stories can be a gift to the people you leave behind, and as you review your life, you may want to write down or record some memories, or you can ask someone else to write or record as you talk. Sharing your wishes and dreams for loved ones may help ease your regrets about leaving them, and it can also help them connect with you at important times in their lives. For young children, consider making them videos or photo albums that remind them of your love and your connection. There's a quote I found that I really liked, and it says, "Some people may also take comfort in knowing that even towards the end of life, they're giving those who care about them an opportunity to follow a path of least regret. Every experience, conversation, disclosure, or time shared together with loved ones creates loving, lasting memories and shapes the grief that will soon follow. Even when words are no longer possible, your presence offers those with your circle a place to gather and begin mourning, a place to comfort and support one another as they contemplate how to move forward in their lives without you. Whatever your final path towards death, know that it will imprint those who grieve your passing and how they face the end when their time comes. That is something you will shape until you take your final breath." And the picture here is a picture of my dad. He is one of the people that I helped care for. He had advanced lung cancer. And, one of the gifts of when you have cancer is you have time to have meaningful conversations and goodbyes. My words to him, I chose his last Christmas with us to be able to share with him what I wanted to say about him in his eulogy, because I felt no one else on this planet deserved to hear it more than him. And then I also, as a way to help him process and give loving words to his family, as well as a way to help my family grieve, I did an interview with him before he passed, and I asked him a few words about each person in the family. And one of the things he said about my daughter was that she was the light of his life. And so when he passed, I got a necklace made with his face etched on it, and on the back it said "Light of my life." And there's times where my daughter wears that necklace that she wishes her grandpa could be there, and she feels like he's there in spirit with her, especially when she has that necklace on. As well as a cool thing my dad did for us, that I didn't even know until after he passed, is he left little things around the house for us to find, because I think sometimes it was hard to have those conversations. He left little things around the house for us to find to share his love. Like I opened his fishing box, and there was a note inside saying he wanted it left to my son. And on the top of the box, he wrote, "To teach a man to fish is to teach a man to live and to be happy." And so that was a gift he gave. Spiritual needs on this journey. The spiritual needs of the patient receiving hospice or palliative care are an important piece of helping them cope. Connecting their faith and their practice of religion, understanding what gives their life meaning. And remember, this doesn't have to be someone who is in a particular religion, but we all have a need to love and be loved, the need for meaning and purpose, the need for support and hope, and the need for dignity and respect. Make sure that you involve rituals, spiritual leaders, devotions or spiritual readings, prayer, meditation, or community or more, if that's something that's important to them, because those spiritual muscles are ones that are really important during this time. As far as social needs, if someone is interested in advanced cancer support groups, on this slide here, I have some of the organizations that have advanced cancer groups. As well as here, I have some resources for you on like Memories Live. This is an organization that helps create unique legacy movies at no cost to the family. And here is a couple of resources that you can use to look into hearing more about hospice, palliative care, end of life issues. But again, your healthcare team should be able to guide you as well. Triage Cancer is another great resource as far as discussing legal issues, advance directives, wills. They have a lot of great handouts and webinars, and I know they're a group we work with all the time, and we really trust them. You're also going to need to make sure as you prepare for these things that you have marriage and birth certificates, social security cards, bank statements, all those things, as well as making sure that your family has access to accounts and passwords and things like that, because that can create problems for people when they're trying to figure out business issues if you're not able to do so. So grief, what are different ways to cope with grief? You know, again, we all have what's worked for us in the past, and we're all going to have things that help us more than others. So one thing, though, is find a healthy way to let your feelings out. Sometimes you might need a meltdown. Sometimes it might be crying. Sometimes it might be screaming, and maybe coffee with a friend. Don't judge your feelings. They're 100% needed and normal. And so find a way. And if you need assistance with that, you can always reach out to us. You also might want to spend some time alone each day to kind of process some of those feelings too. You know, there's going to be different times that come up where it's probably just going to pop up and when you least expect. But I know, like myself, I found being a working mom that when I had my car rides home, that was one of those times that I just kept Kleenex in the car and just let it all out. Be patient, let your grief happen at its own pace. There's no way around it. It's just through it, and there's no time frame that is magical. I will tell you the first and second year can be certainly one of the most challenging from what I have heard from like spouses losing a spouse. When someone loses a spouse, about 2 to 5 years is considered very normal in trying to adjust and work through that grief. But a lot of the first, there's going to be things that you're going to have to figure out how to get through. And again, though, there's a lot of resources for that. And hospice does a great job of allowing you to come back like 12 to 14 months after you've had a loss, as well as the funeral homes. They have a lot of great supportive programs. So make sure you are aware of those. Also find ways to be creative, be physically active, and then forgive yourself for anything, for the woulda, shoulda, couldas. It's a normal part of grief, but taking the time to forgive yourself. Take care of yourself. It's a time where you might want to just stay in bed, but that can, you know, it's one thing to have a bad day or a meltdown, but consistently doing that is going to make it much more complicated. Keep up your routines and find ways to stay connected with your person. You can stay connected to your loved one in many ways. These can be looking at photos, watching videos, remembering their advice to you, or thinking about your times together. And then I'm just going to kind of try to speed up here because I want to make sure everyone else gets time to talk. But how can families and friends support you? They can be there to talk with you. Make sure you stay connected, don't isolate, and consider a support group. And these are some of the resources I used while making this presentation. And my thoughts go out to all of you, and I hope you were able to get something out of this today. Thank you so much. Now for Katie.
Well, thank you, Jennifer, that you are going to be a hard act to follow. Mary, I want to thank you for allowing me to speak today. And I would just like to give you a little bit of a journey that I have been through with my husband, Mark. I was his caretaker. He was diagnosed in 2009, probably actually 2010, but had had the disease prior to that with primary myelofibrosis. And it is one of 3 blood diseases. And Mark was always the one that was the most rare of everybody in his family, so he remained rare in all of the diseases that he found himself being a part of. But what happens is the blood does not form correctly, and causes all kinds of disruptions within the body, wherein you cannot function correctly. For example, he had an enlarged spleen, and that was a result of the spleen trying to clean the blood that was being made off of the bone marrow, and that didn't work well, so the spleen enlarged, caused lots of bone pain for him, and then eating problems. And when he was finally diagnosed accurately, he was put on chemo pills immediately. We thought we were going to a doctor's appointment, only to find out that he ended up on chemo pills and all kinds of testing that needed to be done to find out exactly what was going on with him. The only cure that they actually have for myelofibrosis, they do have one drug now that Mark was put on that helped slow the disease, but the only cure that for myelofibrosis is a bone marrow transplant. And so we had that transplant in St. Louis in 2014. I live in Memphis, Tennessee, and so we did lots of driving back and forth. One of the things that we found that was exciting to do on our drives back and forth was count how many hawks there were looking for prey on the side of the road. There are lots of things that you have to do to entertain yourself for as many drives as you take. But when we went to Siteman, we had such excellent oncology care there, and it became like a little family. And so he had his whole immune system wiped out, and that was done with chemotherapy and radiation. And so the nurses kept telling him, you are going to lose your hair. Mark was convinced that he wasn't going to lose his hair, and so it became a thing between them. They'd come in the morning, no, you haven't lost your hair. Mark said, I tell you, I'm not going to lose my hair. But one morning I came in early with the nurses, and at this point it really had stumped them that he hadn't lost his hair. So came in, and he woke up to us being loud coming in and seemed a little grouchy, and he was, you could tell by the way his face looked that he wasn't happy, and he had stuff in his mouth and what was going on. And when he sat up in bed, on his pillow laid a third of his hair. And the nurses' eyes were so wide, they couldn't believe that that had happened. He looked down, he couldn't believe it happened. And so anyhow, it was one of those delightful stories that on this side of what we experienced is something that I hold dear and near to my heart, because they didn't know what to say at that point. Anyhow, we got the clippers out, we finished trimming off the rest of his hair and moved on. He stayed in the hospital without being outside for 30 days. That's something I don't think I could do, but he managed it. We were relocated to the St. Louis area for about 100 days because of the process of what bone marrow transplants entail and how much care you have to have from the hospital. He ended up with crazy things. Well, this probably isn't crazy for a bone marrow transplant, but he had graft versus host. Ended up with steroid-induced and diabetes because of what had happened with the transplant. Transplants usually are something that are successful generally. They never know when you get the transplant how that's going to turn out. His was not perfect. He actually lost most of his graft, went back for a small transplant of cells, and never fully recovered. So Mark spent the rest of his life somewhat isolated. He had to leave work because of the disease, and that was something that the doctors spoke to him about, and in the midst of all of this, we got to fight a 2-year battle for compensation, and so we eventually got that taken care of. But one of the hard things for him was not being able to be a man and do all the things that men should do, work and those types of things. So he learned how to be a housewife to a certain extent, and we lived that way for several years. And then at one point, as we were checking him, which you always had to do with your body, we found a lump on his back, only to find out that lump was an even more rare form of cancer, which is called Merkel cell carcinoma. And there's like 3 cases in a million that get Merkel cell. And I'm like, Mark, why? Why did you have to be that kind of rare? But he had no good answers and said, we'll just go do the surgery. You don't want to have to deal with it. Anyhow, so we had the surgery and it was removed. They said that it is rare enough that it comes back quickly within 2 years. Mark wasn't that fortunate. It came back within 2 months. And we found that when we were back in St. Louis for a return visit to Siteman, and they hospitalized him again, and found out that it was truly Merkel cell that had returned. And they sent us back to Memphis, where he had a couple rounds of radiation, and then they had at that point determined that with what he had with the transplant and the immune issues that he was dealing with, once you have a transplant, you are on multiple immune suppressors. And so they decided at this point that things were rapidly changing for his life, his health, and they weren't quite sure what to do with him. So we had multiple conversations with doctors in St. Louis. We were back in Memphis, and they decided to offer him radiation again so that they could take him off the immune suppressing drugs. And then they were going to put him on I think it was experimental at that time, type of drug. It was called Keytruda, and try multiple rounds of that. Mark did not respond well to that, and we were hospitalized again, and this was crazy, but the reaction he had was to shed his whole exterior skin level, or the whole exterior skin, and that included within the mouth and your whole body. So he ended up with mouth sores, couldn't eat. It was just craziness, and so then we got home from that, and so I don't remember what the next thing was. I was probably sitting at work the day that he called, and he said, Katie, I think I have to go to the hospital. I'm like, Mark, either you have to go or you don't. Help me understand what we're doing here. So we ended up back in the hospital, and at that point he had all kinds of testing, CAT scans, MRIs, all the things that you would typically do to see what was going on. And they found that the cancer had metastasized to his brain. So it was such a rapid change in those months of seeing him slowly. He was vibrant, but you could see that he was struggling with things to say and different things like that. So we left the hospital and were put in a position where we could meet with a brain surgeon the next day. And so we did that. And they were prepared to go in and do brain surgery on him. And I said, wait, time out, we need to have a break. So Mark and I left, and one of his favorite things to do at this point, because he could get away with it, was he loved Chick-fil-A milkshakes, chocolate milkshakes, and mac and cheese. Now, it was not a combination I wanted to particularly partake of, but that's what we did. So we went and had lunch, and because of his immune suppression, he wasn't able to be around people a lot. So we elected to sit under a tree in the car, and we had this long discussion about what was happening with him, and did he want to go ahead and pursue having the brain cancer removed. And so he talked, and I talked, and I told him, I said, Mark, I'll do whatever you want. I'll do whatever you want. We've done it this long. And at that point, he made the decision that he did not think that he wanted to continue fighting for what he needed to keep him alive. And so he made that decision, and we made that in unison, and it is one of the sweetest conversations that I still remember, and one of the things that we did together. But we called the hospital and canceled the surgery, and at that point we went home, not knowing what we were going to expect, and talked to doctors both here in Memphis and in the St. Louis area, and basically said that it was whatever amount of time that his body would be able to sustain what was happening with the cancer. So we did call in hospice at that point, and we did home hospice. I left my job for a short amount of time to do this, so I was able to be with him every day. And much of what Jennifer said is really true. You have opportunity to talk and discuss. The sweet things that I remember are the times when he and I were alone and nobody was in the house, and I got to just hold his hand. And those are things that are delightful for me today. It took him about 10 days before everything made a huge change, and he passed then on to glory. But some of the things that we did that during that time period that have stayed with me are when we knew that he had made the decision not to pursue any more type of cancer treatment. It was about Labor Day, and he had much of his family here in Memphis, and so we decided to have a Labor Day party. Invited all of his family, so family came from all out of town, and then the family here. And what I thought was going to be a Labor Day party turned into a 3-day Labor Day weekend of people being in my house, which made me crazy. But it was a delight for him. It was a time for people to talk with him and share with him and he with them. And I couldn't have planned that any better if I would have chosen to do it. And I think it was honoring both to Mark and honoring to the family, because they were able to say their goodbyes when things were still sweet. And what a delight. And the memories that I have from that are precious to me today. So hospice came in, and they would come and do all the crazy things that they do, which is, try to turn him. And he was a big guy. You didn't turn Mark. And so we all would struggle, 4 of us would struggle trying to get him on his side and those types of things. But anyhow, he was strong to the end. But the hard things were watching the pain management, and you find yourself, or I found myself, I shouldn't say you, because I found myself constantly running for pain medicine and wanting to sit by his side. And so there's a balance that goes with that. But there isn't a moment of that I would change or trade, because caregiving for my husband was not only a journey that we found out that we were running together. We didn't know that was how it was going to go, but that's what we did. We ran that together, and it was a race that we ran hard, and we did the best that we could. And today I can stand on this side of it and say, well done, Mark. And I think that that's what the Lord says to him too, well done. And I many times thank him for the opportunity, because it drew us close. When you go to those doctor's appointments and they're saying things to you and saying, oh, you got to do this, you got to do that. And then you get home and then you have discussions about the doctors and all things. And so there was joy in that. I'm sure that I sound like like this was an easy journey. Maybe I sound like that, but the joy that I was able to experience while he was working through this is, I believe, supernatural, number one. But what an opportunity and what an honor for me to come alongside of a person's life. Mark was easy to get along with. He was not a person who complained a lot, so that was easy for me. But what an honor. And so I would say to you that here is what I found. I found that your life is now a journey, now that you know that you are sick and where you are, and you take it one step at a time. As the doctors offer you options and things to do, you process that, and that's a step that you take and a decision that you make. And you find the courage to get through those things. And once the courage is there, then you're like, yes, I can do this. Yes, I can run this. And that's what I found in my journey with Mark. What I didn't realize was after Mark passed that I was going to be put on yet another journey. And so I would encourage you to consider the fact that there is another journey coming. And that journey is not much different than the journey of sickness is. It's still the same thing. You're going to face things one step at a time, and it's going to look different, but it's still going to be one step at a time. And as those things arise, you find that you have courage to take those steps. And Jennifer said it so well, and all the things that she offered for, sometimes it's a meltdown, sometimes it's just get me out and let me get the fresh air, those types of things. But what I have found, and so Mark's been gone 4 years now, but what I have found in this side of the journey is it's not much different. You still have things that you have to face. You still look to, for me, I look to my maker to be the person now who encourages me with taking the next step. And for me, it has been the step of what does this look like in truly becoming a widow, and investigating that with some church members. And we're having a delightful time. So I would encourage you to make memories. I would encourage you to consider the things that are precious and stick those in the back of your mind and keep those, because they will be your joy. I keep a picture of Mark on my kitchen counter, and for multiple years I didn't talk to him, and now this year I find that I'm talking to him all the time, and asking him what he's doing in heaven and different things like that. So you find ways to cope, and that's the truth of it. You will cope and you will survive. It's a difficult time to encounter, 10 years for us, and but I wouldn't trade it. It was a journey, and I find it an honor, and I thank Mark many times for the fact that he allowed me to journey with him. He journeyed well, and we ran the race. So I don't know if any of that helps, but it is a perspective, and I certainly hope that you will take to heart the things that Jennifer said and look for those things that you can use in your arsenal that will keep you, and that you will find joy. And so I hope that it goes very, very well for you, and thank you for the time. Oh, I think we're over to you now. Excuse me, Steve.
Yeah, thank you. Let me just put this on screen. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to give you an insider's view because I'm inside the diagnosis of AML. I'm in June, I'll be 2 years inside of a 5-year poor prognosis. I'm doing well. And I look at this time period as a time to address unfinished business. I've tried to think, okay, what have I still not done that I need to do? To be thankful for the life and family and friends that I have, purposely. To take stock of what I've learned and what my spirit has gained in this experience, and to still live, love, grow, and learn. So another thing is to accept that pain, which all patients experience, is a valid life experience that we can learn to be grateful for. It's a struggle, but I found a quote, Aeschylus: even in our sleep, pain, which cannot forget, falls drop by drop upon the heart, until in our own despair, against our will, comes wisdom through the awful grace of God. And that very meaningful to me, because there are time periods as patients and as caregivers and family and friends that there is pain. It's a good time to be guided by experts and to be very patient with them. whether you're waiting for a my chart answer or trying to get an answer about something, patience is required. And to note, Jen, I think, made this point, our bodies do know how to die. They know how to be born. We're not real active in that. Well, we're active, but not terribly conscious during that. We know, if you'll forgive me, how to have sex without reading manuals. Our bodies know how to do that. Our bodies know how to die. And part of dying, and this is my 10 years of hospice experience, is not to interfere with the natural process. In fact, to go to some effort not to, just to focus on pain management. And the whole narrative part of it is to learn as much as you can. So for births, we know things about our friends, our family, our daughters, everybody. We know how many centimeters dilated they are. We know how they feel at month 6. We know what the doctors are going to do. They're surrounded by nurses. They go to classes. We go to classes about it. We know what's happening because we're given a narrative to help us. We do not typically have that for dying, but we can get it. And that's an educational challenge that we're taking on. Because if we had the narrative, we would know that the things that happen when we die look just the way a birth would look. It would look messy. It would have lots of fluids. There would be some pain management. There would be doctors and nurses, but they would tell us this is normal. And here's what happens next. That's the part we're missing about dying. And so if you've not experienced it, it can be shocking. But if you study it ahead of time, there's lots to look at and people to talk to, it won't be a shock. It'll be normal. And finally, I want to light the path for those that follow. Caregivers. I can't say enough about the importance of taking care of your caregiver or caregivers, and some guidance, to give them some guidance to your caregiver and to the people that surround them, which is to tell the people that surround them, please don't say, what can I do? Or let us know if there's anything we can do. Don't say it. Instead, say, how are you holding up? How are you doing? And start a conversation. If you're far away, mail cards or food gift cards, you can arrange meals. You can comment if there's a journal for the patient in there, direct your comment to the caregiver. I know what I don't know what you're going through, but I know you're doing so much for whoever. And if you're close by, I'm headed to the store. What can I get you? You need a break. I'll stay with her tomorrow, 2 or 3 hours, and give you a break. What time is good? Let's grab a quick lunch. When's good? I'm bringing dinner over. I'm going to be on your porch. What time's good? or Uber Eats or something like that. The whole concept here is draw near, don't disappear. Those of you that have been through this know that some friends, some people will disappear. They don't know how to handle it. They don't know what to say. So they just kind of you realize you haven't heard from them for the last month and a half, right? So, but if you can, coach the people around your caregiver to draw near and not to disappear. Plan and organize the end stage. I can't say this enough. I put during the end stretch, there's 24/7 continuous care required. Some people are lucky enough that this isn't very long. Many have weeks of this, and some have months of this. 24/7 care. Well, who does that? In hospice, I've learned that a lot of people that come in there think that hospice is going to do that for them. They're not. They're going to send a nurse out 2-3 times a week, send a CNA out to help clean and so forth. Well, who's taking care of them when they get to the 24/7 time period when they're incontinent and can't move hardly? The answer is perhaps you. It's the caregiver, it's the family. Unless you're fortunate enough to be able to hire people to come in. So that comes as a shock to many, many, many families. Probably not to this crowd today, very educated, but I just want to mention, where will I be? Where will the patient be at the end? In skilled nursing? Will I be in assisted living? Will I be home? these are things to think about. And generally speaking, the one thing they have in common is they all cost a lot of money because you've got to get help. And there are ways of getting assistance for that below certain income threshold levels. They're pretty low, but they can be done. And you want to talk to the hospice social worker, the Jens of the world, about who to speak to get qualified for that. But in the absence of that, you want to plan for major financial expense at the end. 5 figures at least. My mom, it was 6 figures if she went so long, and she burned up. Happily, they had that nest egg, but she pretty much burned it up, which was fine. It was fine with us. So make a plan. Think about it ahead of time. It is intense. It's 24/7, and it can be very expensive. And finally, make sure that you have a list, a to-do list really for yourself. I'll give you this one. Just a few things I want to call out. There are some wonderful tools out there. The 4 things that matter most, which is about setting right your relationships with everybody that's close to you. There's the 5 wishes, you probably heard of it, which is defining your end of life care. And then the next level down from that, there's a thing called orders of scope of treatment. There's a national one, and I put the link in there for you. And then state by state, some of them are codified. So I live in North Carolina, and there is one for North Carolina, and it needs to be filled out and signed, and it will get very concrete about specific things like, am I going to be a full code? Meaning do everything you can to revive me if anything happens. No, I'm not. I don't want to be intubated. I don't want to be, my life prolonged. But it'll get very specific about it. The reason you want to do that is because, and I've seen these in my decade of volunteering at the IPU, I've seen families having big discussions about a medical decision about Aunt Mary would do that. And if they disagree, what ends up happening is it throws it over to a combination of a couple of key people and the doctor. And you may or may not get what you really wanted. So the idea here is to codify it in writing so that it doesn't create a scene and so that you get what you want in terms of your treatment. The outreach to primary caregiver and their support people I mentioned, a legacy document. There are several of these out there available to create videos, to create books, to create written records and audio records. And you can do this with your loved one and even complete it after they're gone. So, signing up for these things is a good thing. Palliative care, I'm a believer. I have a palliative care doctor, and I'm so happy that I did this because they've been priceless, really, in certain time periods where some of the treatment was causing me a lot of pain. Magic. They're just magic. They know how to handle it. And I've had 2 hospice consults. I actually have somebody assigned to me, and she is fabulous and has given me lots of great ideas. They're ready when I'm ready. The music playlist, Jen mentioned this, so I want my own. So I've made a list of my songs. They're the songs I love from about age 14 to 25 or so. And my music, right? And some of the other things that I picked up along the way. And so I want that playing 24/7. I actually have that in mind. And photos, have photos around you, around your loved one. There are these wonderful electronic things that show photos. I recommend. I have one of those. I've loaded it up. I want it bedside. I have a therapist. I recommend for anybody that gets into this situation, either caregiving or as a patient, get a therapist. I did it right away. I have an end-of-life advocate or doula involved to help me with planning. I've attended a couple of death cafes, and I am thinking there are always those in life with whom we have a divergence of opinions. and stop speaking. And if any of those come to mind for the end, and you want to reconcile, then you've got to take some action. And I actually spoke to somebody, one of my compatriots from the hospital, who had all the same incredible caregivers that I am for 60 or 70 years, passed a week before last. And I had a chance to talk to him before he was gone. And he mentioned that he had reconciled with a nephew. And I said, how'd you do that? And he said he dialed him up and said, I'm dying. I want to see you before I'm gone. So I've saved that phrase just in case I need it. But anyway, you'll have this checklist, and I want to pause to have at least a few minutes for Q&A, as Mary promised. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. Mary, over to you.
Wow, thank you guys so much for those presentations. I am over here feeling very inspired. And I hope that some of this was helpful for everyone here as well. Just as a reminder, we do have time now open for questions. If you would like to ask a question, you can make a comment by typing in the chat box, or you can raise your hand to ask the question, and we can answer those live. Okay, Nancy.
Hi, thank you. I have a situation in our house where it's terribly cluttered and we cannot have people visit. My husband is in remission currently from AML, though his blood numbers have been going down. And I don't know how to get this place cleared out so that he can have visitors. It's really sad. And thinking of, where he could die, it's just not set up right now.
I certainly want to hear what Steve or Katie have to say, but what's your support system like?
I am in several decluttering groups. I have our kids, but they have theirs. We have a daughter, an adult daughter, who was born with a neuromuscular condition, and she lives in Philly. We're in Bucks County. Occasionally she'll need support from us, but then she's capable of giving emotional support. Our son is a little bit more removed emotionally, though. As soon as his father got out of the hospital, the day he was getting out, my son came and drove me there, so I didn't have to go and do it alone. So I know in a pinch he would be there, but he's got young kids and a wife. I have some friends, not locally, so I can't see them, but we can talk on the phone. But
Well,
his family is 45 minutes to an hour away, and they don't come regularly.
Yeah.
Because of the house.
Well, oh, go ahead, Katie. Were you about to say something?
I'm sorry. Do you have any friends, neighbors that would be willing to come and assess? And I don't know.
Not really.
Okay.
I don't.
What about your decluttering groups? Would they be able to come and help you move some of those things out? What I found for myself was when I asked people, they seemed to understand and they were very helpful.
Well, the decluttering group is all over the country. It's all virtual. So yeah. I think I would have to hire somebody to do that. And we talk about it.
My take, Nancy, is organize an event. Maybe you hire a couple people to come in, and then you go around the room and you say, how many times did I use this in the last year? If the answer
Yeah,
is 0, it goes to the garage or someplace else. Right then.
right. I know it's kind of like an aside, but this is what's on my mind a lot
Yeah.
with
I
this.
don't know if you saw in the chat, someone had put about organization, cleaning for a reason, um,
Okay.
helping with those kinds of like situations. If you talk to your social worker too, or you go to like even area agency on aging, uh, can have some discounted help with like cleaning and things. But I want
Well,
to,
I don't think we qualify for any discounts.
well, you can certainly look and see. Sometimes even the senior centers in your area might have people that promise certain rates to try to help. But even if you have one room, I would, I'll be honest with you, when people are coming to say goodbye, the last thing they're looking at is any of your piles.
Uh-huh. Right.
And I would encourage you, like, even if you can get one room that is just a safe haven for him as he's going through this.
Well,
All
the bedroom is probably the clearest room besides the bathrooms.
okay. And if he really wants to die at home and you feel equipped to honor that wish for him, the cluttering can come later or the decluttering can come later. It's all about those sacred moments because I can tell you, having lost people already and like I said, walking through the hospice stuff right now, nobody cares about my baseboards, and
Mhm.
most of the time they never did anyway. But for us, or any of the cluttering, it's about having those sacred moments because those are things you can't get back.
Yeah.
So I would encourage you to, and you can always reach out to me at nbmtLINK to if that kind of stuff doesn't work out for you, and I can do some more research for you, see if I can find anything. Okay.
Thanks, Jen. Yeah, right now my son won't bring the kids here
Okay.
because of the condition of the house. So we go to them. Thank
Well,
you all. I appreciate the input and I copied the link.
absolutely. Thoughts and prayers to you. And I will just put out there, sometimes it's creativity at the end. I had a woman who had multiple siblings and nobody was willing to take her home with them. She was single. Her pastor cleared out his office for 2 months and
Oh,
everyone took shifts visiting her at her pastor's office.
wow.
You know, um,
We were almost thinking of renting out a hotel room,
you know what? Whatever makes you and him smile, it's about sacred moments. But I'll stop there.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you
Thank
so
you all. Mwah.
Thank you for your question and for the answers. We have a comment that just says, have loved ones make phone calls. Hearing voices is so important in telling stories. Neighbors and family members called during my father's journey when he could still process, and it was beautiful. So another thing to think about during this time. And then it looks like Julie had a question. Oh, no more?
No, it was just I didn't know how to raise the hand thing, but I think Nance has been given so much that I don't think she needs overloaded by somebody else. But I
Okay.
live with a serial clutterer too, but I've had more time to deal with that.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing. Um, I do want to say that looks like we don't have any other questions right now. But if anyone does have questions, we have ways for you to get in contact with all of our presenters today. So Steve has provided his email on his slides as well as Jennifer on her slides. And those slides are going to be emailed out to everyone. So you'll have their contact information there if you have questions you'd like to ask in a more private setting, or if questions come to you later. Steve is also one of our AML coaches. So if you would like the chance to connect with him or one of our other amazing coaches, we can help you get set up with that as well. And then I did want to mention our sponsors again who help make this event possible, Servier, Estella's, and AbbVie. And then I did want to mention that we do have another meeting coming up on January 29th. This is in our Life After Loss chapter. So this is a chapter specifically for people who have gone through loss, as a place for them to come together, to find community, to find help, to find resources, support. And that meeting will be next Monday on the 29th. And the link to register is there, or you can just find it on our website. You can navigate to it there. And then lastly, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone for joining us today. I have so loved doing this event in collaboration with the nbmtLINK. It's been such a pleasure. And we would love to welcome anyone who joined us today from the nbmtLINK community. We're so glad you're here. I added my email to this slide here, so please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions, if you need help getting in contact with someone, or if you have any ideas for topics you'd like us to cover in 2024. We're always open to things that are of interest to our community. I hope to see each of you again soon. Please do not hesitate to reach out with any questions about HealthTree, upcoming events, anything like that. And with that, I'd like to just say thank you, and I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their day.
Thank you so much. Everyone, take care.
Thanks, Mary.
Thank you.